It was supposed to be our first peaceful getaway in months. Just me, my wife Lisa, our 2 kids, Ella and Max, and the vast whispering wilderness of Glacier Creek Forest. We'd been through a lot that year. Lisa's job loss, my medical leave, and Ella's quiet battles with anxiety. This trip was a reset, a fresh breath away from the chaos of life. But we had no idea how much we'd come to wish we'd never left home. From the moment we pulled into the remote campsite, I felt something was off. Not wrong, exactly, just unsettled. The wind seemed to carry a memory, like it had stories it was trying to whisper. And then we saw him, a man in a red flannel shirt crouched by a campfire just beyond our sight. He waved. I waved back. "Looks like we've got a neighbor," I muttered, trying to sound casual. Lisa peered over. "That's odd," the ranger said. "We were the only ones on this side of the park." We unpacked anyway. Max chased Ella with a stick, pretending it was a sword. The golden hour sun made everything glow, and for a few minutes I let my guard down. But later that night, as we sat by our own fire, I noticed him again, sitting alone, unmoving, eyes reflecting orange in the flames. "He hasn't eaten," Lisa said. "Hasn't moved, really." I nodded, unease scratching my insides. Around midnight, I heard movement outside the tent. Just the wind, I told myself, until I saw the outline of boots through the tent wall. I unzipped the flap fast, holding my breath. No one was there. Just the firelight still flickering in the distance, and a faint sound behind the trees, like a camera shutter. Morning brought an uneasy calm. Sunlight filtered through the pines, casting long beams over the dew-slick ground. The kids were already up, arguing over the last Pop-Tart, and Lisa was boiling water for coffee. I stood near the tent, staring toward where the stranger's camp had been. He was gone. No sign of the man in red. His fire pit was out, the ground disturbed but bare. No tent, no sleeping bag, just churned up dirt, and an impression in the grass where he'd once sat. "Maybe he packed up early," Lisa offered. "Some people hike at sunrise." But he hadn't left footprints, at least, not away from the site. Just a trail leading toward our camp, stopping near a tree behind our tent. That's when I saw it. Carved into the bark, faint but deliberate, a smiley face. 3 inches tall, perfectly symmetrical. Not a doodle, a signature. I showed Lisa. She tried to laugh it off, but her eyes betrayed her. We'd planned a hike to distract ourselves, packed sandwiches, bug spray, the works. We were halfway down Ridge Trail when Max wandered off the path. I caught up to him just in time. He was standing in front of another tree, another smiley face. "Daddy, why are they everywhere?" he asked. "I don't know, bud." Ella, quiet and pale, pointed farther into the woods. "There's another one." We didn't continue the hike. We went back, quickly. When we returned, something was waiting at our camp. A Polaroid. It was pinned to our cooler with a knife. In the photo, we were sitting around the fire the night before, all 4 of us, smiling, oblivious. I hadn't seen a flash, hadn't heard a click, but someone had taken it. Someone who had been close enough to frame the shot perfectly. Lisa grabbed the kids. "We're leaving, now." But when we reached the car, the tires had been slashed. Not popped, sliced clean with something razor-sharp, precise, intentional. We were trapped. And the smiley face carved into our passenger door told us the stranger hadn't just watched us. He wanted us to know he was still here. We spent the next hour arguing about what to do, our voices hushed and frantic. Lisa wanted to hike out, tires be damned, and call for help once we hit the road. I was torn. Something told me whoever had done this, they were waiting for that. They wanted us to panic. In the end, we compromised. We'd leave at first light, pack light, and move fast, but tonight we'd stay alert, together. As dusk fell, I took my flashlight and walked a perimeter around the camp. Every rustle made me jump. The smiley faces were on more trees than before, some fresh, the bark still bleeding sap. Then I saw it, a small wooden box, tucked under a pile of pine needles behind a fallen log. At first I thought it was just trash. Then I saw the lock snapped clean off and the name carved into the lid, Camp Journal. I brought it back to the fire, where Lisa and the kids sat silently. "It's his," I said. Lisa didn't need to ask who. The box creaked open like something out of a nightmare. Inside were old photos, dog-eared maps, and dozens of small black-covered notebooks, each labeled by year, each covered in greasy fingerprints. The earliest one was from 2007. I opened a random page and started reading. The writing was tight and deliberate, almost emotionless. July 13. New family. 4 members. They keep leaving food out. 2 kids. Blonde girl is loud. Boy seems slow. We'll wait for the right night. My stomach turned. Lisa read over my shoulder. Are these all families?" I flipped through. Photos were tucked between pages. Some Polaroids, some prints, kids playing, parents laughing, all taken from a distance. But a few were close. Unnervingly close. The latest entries were even worse. One from just 3 days ago. June 8. Arrival confirmed. Father limps. Mother's hands shake when lighting fire. Daughter wears hoodie every day. Boy picks nose. They are perfect. The penmanship was smooth, practiced, like he'd written this 100 times. Max crawled closer and peeked inside the box. "That's me," he whispered. And it was. A picture of him by the stream from yesterday morning. The one I'd taken on my phone, only I hadn't taken it. My phone was in the tent, and this angle was from the tree line. "I'm going to be sick," Lisa said, pushing away from the fire. There were maps, too. Hand-drawn layouts of the campground, marked with symbols, trees, trails, and smiley faces. One of them was circled. Our tent. Ella spoke up. "Why is there a list?" She pointed to a page near the back. A checklist. Observe arrival. Night entry. Provoke fear. Disable vehicle. Leave photo. Final phase. The last line wasn't checked. "Final phase?" Lisa repeated. Her face was pale, lips trembling. That night, we didn't sleep. We sat in shifts. I held a hatchet in my lap, eyes flicking toward the dark. Around 2 a.m., we heard footsteps. Not animal. Boots. I stood slowly and pointed the flashlight. Nothing. Then Max screamed. He was staring at a tree just beyond the tent. Another Polaroid was pinned to it with a branch spike. This time, it was a close-up of Lisa, asleep in the tent, taken just hours ago. There was writing on the bottom. "Almost done." The GPS coordinates burned into my mind like a curse. Lisa traced them over and over with her finger, memorizing them as we moved deeper into Glacier Creek's lesser-known trails. Every step we took away from the safety of a marked path felt like walking into someone else's story, a trap designed by someone who knew the woods better than we ever could. The sun had barely crested the trees when we reached a split in the forest. There were no signs, no direction, just two equally overgrown paths winding through ancient pine. I took a breath and held up the coordinates, cross-referencing with the crude hand-drawn map from the journal. "This way," I said. Ella gripped my hand tightly. Max was too tired to walk on his own, so Lisa carried him piggyback, sweat dripping down her temple. Her eyes never stopped scanning the trees. It took us 30 minutes to reach the clearing. The trees parted to reveal a strange, almost surgical patch of earth, flat, dry, and recently disturbed. In the center stood a tent, not like ours. This one was dark green, military grade, flanked by a metal storage bin and what looked like a trail camera on a pole. Lisa froze. "This is his camp." We moved as one unit, quiet, alert. The tent flaps were open, slightly billowing with the breeze. I gripped the hatchet tightly and stepped forward, heart pounding. Inside, the smell hit first. Sweat, mildew, something metallic. Then the sights. Stacks of photos pinned to the canvas walls. Printed maps with strings tied from one campsite to the next. Markers labeled with dates, victims, times of arrival, routes taken. It was a murder investigation, except he was the detective and the executioner. A makeshift desk sat at the back, and on it, a leather-bound book. Lisa stepped up beside me and opened it. Case file, Williams family, final entry pending. I flipped to the last page. There was a spot for a photo blank. Underneath, a line of text. Tonight, 9:23 p.m., the fire dies. The father first. We all stood there in silence, the horror closing around us. Is this a prophecy?" Lisa whispered. Ella's voice was barely audible. "Or a plan?" Then we heard it. The soft click of a camera shutter. We spun around, but no one was there. Back outside, we searched the perimeter. That's when Max pointed. Up there. At the edge of the clearing, maybe 20 feet up a dead tree, was a hunting blind. We climbed together. Lisa stayed below with the kids, while I ascended. My hands shook as I reached the top. The blind was empty, but inside were two things. A thermal scope rifle mounted to a tripod, and an envelope labeled "Open when found." I ripped it open. Inside was a photo of us, right now, standing outside the tent. A drone shot, taken seconds ago. The note read, "Welcome to your last choice. Fight, or run. Either way, I'll be watching." We debated whether to destroy his camp, take it all to the ranger station, or stay and ambush him. Lisa leaned toward burning it all. I wanted to lure him into his own trap. Then Lisa found the safe. Bolted into the ground under the tent, hidden beneath a pile of blankets. I used the hatchet to pry it open. Inside. More photos. Children. Dozens of them. Some smiling, some afraid, some with names written on the backs. But one envelope was sealed differently. Red wax, stamped with a crude smiley face. Lisa opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a USB drive. And a handwritten note. You saw the ending, but you don't know the beginning. Plug it in, watch, decide. We didn't have a laptop, but Ella remembered the ranger station we passed miles back had a solar charger and a basic PC setup. If we could make it there, maybe we could find answers. Maybe even evidence. Maybe we could finally turn the story around. But something told me, the real horror hadn't started yet. We made it to the ranger station just after noon. The trail was rough, overgrown, but we kept moving. The kids were quiet, eyes wide, every snapping twig causing them to jump. Lisa carried the journal and the USB drive like sacred relics, refusing to let them out of her sight. The station was old, sun-bleached, and empty. The front door creaked on rusted hinges as we entered. Dust motes floated in the stale air. The place clearly abandoned for weeks, maybe months. But the laptop was there. Lisa found the power cable plugged into a solar array. Miraculously, the screen flickered to life with a low hum. It was locked behind a password, but Ella leaned in and typed Ranger 2023. The desktop blinked open. How'd you know that? I asked. She shrugged. I saw it written on a post-it last time we passed by. I handed her the USB. You ready? Ella nodded, inserted the drive and clicked on the only file. Entry 1. Tau MP4. The screen filled with static, then the video began. A handheld camera panned through forest brush. It was night. The person holding the camera was breathing heavily, erratically. Then a voice. My name is Peter Callan. I was a ranger at Glacier Creek for 11 years. If you're watching this, it means he found you, and he wants you to know everything. The camera turned to reveal a thin, pale man in uniform. Sunken eyes, sweat dripping down his face. The date on the screen read, August 3, 2017. Peter continued. He calls himself Hollow. I don't know his real name. I don't even know his face, but I know what he does, and I know he's been doing it a long, long time. Lisa covered her mouth. Max clutched her leg. He started with animals, then campers. Always the same pattern. Fear, surveillance, destruction. But he's not just killing, he's collecting. Memories, moments, people. The camera jerked as Peter turned, revealing walls lined with Polaroids, some burned at the edges, others freshly printed. I tried to stop him. I burned his camp. I called the authorities. No one believed me. Then one day, I got a box, with my own picture inside, taken while I slept, and I knew I was next. The video cut to static, then another clip autoplayed. Entry 2. This one was different. Night vision, heavy breathing, the sound of a woman crying in the background. Then the whisper, you can't save them all, Peter. We turned it off. Ella was crying now. Lisa stood up. He's playing a game, leaving these behind like trophies. He wants us to be afraid. I nodded, pacing. This confirms it. We can't just run. He'll find us again. He's done this before. Dozens of times. Lisa looked at me. Her voice was low. Then we don't run. We end it. Tonight. I opened the ranger station locker. Inside were flare guns, maps, and an old radio. The signal crackled with static, but Lisa managed to get through on an emergency frequency. We left a short, clipped message. Family in danger. Glacier Creek. Coordinates uploaded. Active predator. Immediate help needed. We didn't wait for a response. We packed what we needed. The flares, the journal, the USB, and the last of the protein bars. Then we headed back. Not to camp. To his camp. Because if he wanted to finish this story tonight, so would we. The woods felt different this time, quieter. Every tree looked like a watcher, every shadow a hiding place. We took a longer route, one that would bring us behind the killer's camp. I held the flare gun tight. Lisa had the hatchet. The kids, finally understanding the danger, said nothing, even Max. We stopped a few hundred feet out. The camp looked undisturbed, still, dead quiet. I whispered, stay here, watch the trail. If you hear anything, you run back to the station. Lisa squeezed my arm. Be careful. I crept forward, slipping through branches and ducking behind trunks until I was at the edge of the clearing. The tent was zipped. No movement, no sound. I moved in. The tent was empty, but it had changed. The walls were now covered in new photos, all from today. Ella crying, Lisa holding Max, me walking alone. Every photo timestamped. Each one labeled with the word finale. Then I saw it, a camera mounted on a branch, a red light blinking. I walked over and ripped it down. On the screen was a countdown. 2 hours, 11 minutes, 37 seconds. 2 hours, 11 minutes, 36 seconds. A timer. For what? A sound stopped me cold. Crunching leaves. Not far. I dropped to the ground, crawling to the edge of the tent, and peeking out. He was here. Red flannel, dirty jeans, a knife hanging from his belt. He wasn't sneaking. He was walking casually, like this was just another stroll. He stopped by the fire pit and crouched. Then he looked straight at me. Not at the tent, at me. He smiled. I pulled back fast, heart pounding. He knew. He'd known all along. We hadn't set a trap. We were the trap. I heard Lisa scream. I ran. Branches slapped my face. Thorns tore my shirt, but I ran toward the trail. When I got there, Lisa was alone. Max, Ella, they're gone. I looked around. Empty woods. No sound. Just that unbearable silence. And a small Polaroid pinned to a tree. Max and Ella, sitting quietly, their eyes wide. A note beneath it. You took my pictures. I took yours. Lisa collapsed, sobbing. I pulled her up. We're getting them back. I don't care what it takes. We followed the trail, running now, past the trees, deeper into the unknown. Until we saw the shack. Half buried into a hill, camouflaged by vines and brush, a bunker. I didn't knock. I kicked the door in. Inside was darkness, except for one dim light swinging from a wire. And on the floor, Max. Tied up, gagged, eyes wide with terror. I rushed to him. Lisa cut the ties. He cried in her arms, but through the tears he said, "He's got Ella." He said she's next. Then I saw it. A ladder. Going down into the earth. And above it, another note. Note. Bring the camera. Watch the show. I grabbed the flare gun and began to descend. The air changed as I descended the ladder. Cooler. Still. A silence that wasn't empty. It was waiting. Each metal rung groaned under my weight. The sound swallowed by the blackness below. The flashlight on my chest flicked shadows against the walls of the shaft. Carved into the wood around me were faces, dozens of them, smiling, frowning, some with X's through their eyes, Max's, Ella's, even mine. At the bottom, the ladder opened into a tunnel, dirt walls reinforced with old planks and barbed wire. A bare bulb flickered above a camera mounted to the ceiling. He'd built this, all of it. I moved forward slowly, every step pressing deeper into his world. The walls were lined with Polaroids, journals, even audio tapes labeled with names and dates. One tape caught my eye. Williams family, final phase. I kept moving. Ahead, the tunnel opened into a chamber, a makeshift room, dimly lit. On the far side was a wooden chair. Ella was tied to it, blindfolded, mouth taped shut. Her chest rose and fell in panic. And standing behind her, him. Red flannel, masked now. A crude, smiling face carved into wood strapped over his real one. In one hand, a camera. In the other, a knife. He raised a finger and pointed to a screen behind him. It lit up. A live feed. Lisa, holding Max, outside the shack. He whispered, "Make a choice." My hands shook. "What do you want?" He tilted his head. "The story. Always the story. Yours is almost over. The question is, who finishes it?" He threw a remote to the ground at my feet. I picked it up. 2 buttons, no labels. He said nothing, just smiled. I stared at Ella. Her eyes were wide now. Tears ran down her face. He took a step closer to her, raised the knife. I aimed the flare gun at his chest. "Let her go." He didn't stop. So I pulled the trigger. The flare erupted like a miniature sun, striking him in the chest and sending him crashing into the wall. He screamed, flames licking at his flannel. I rushed to Ella, cut the ropes, yanked off the tape. She sobbed into my chest. Behind us, he staggered to his feet. Burning, but still smiling. "Run," I yelled. We sprinted down the tunnel. The walls shook. Something behind us collapsed. Timbers breaking, fire crackling. We reached the ladder. Lisa was there. Max screamed and ran to Ella. I turned back just once. He was gone. Smoke billowed from the tunnel below. We climbed, fast. When we reached the surface, the bunker exploded into fire. A column of black smoke rose into the trees. But no body. No mask. Just ashes. And one final note nailed to the inside of the shack door. "Every picture tells a story. Yours isn't finished yet." We didn't speak for hours after we reached the ranger station again. Smoke from the burning bunker still rose in the distance like a warning signal, part rescue beacon, part eulogy. I kept expecting someone, anyone, to come racing down the trail. No one did. We used the satellite radio one more time. I told them everything, location, identity, evidence. They said, help was coming. It took 12 hours. By the time the authorities arrived, the fire had burned itself out. The tunnel was inaccessible. All that remained was scorched earth, a half-melted camera mount, and the mask cracked but intact propped neatly on a charred tree stump. The media flooded in by day 2. A survival story. A madman in the woods. A family that fought back. But the truth was far worse than the headlines. We gave the USB to the FBI. We turned in the journals, the photos, the tapes. They launched a full investigation, roping off miles of forest, but the news cycle spun it into something cleaner, something digestible. They didn't tell the public about the tapes, or the faces on the walls, or the checklist of names that still had unchecked boxes. The killer's real name was never confirmed. No fingerprints, no digital trail, just the alias he gave himself in one of the files, Hollow. He had been active for nearly 20 years, and no one ever noticed. Lisa tried to move on. She threw herself into work, into rebuilding something normal. Max started therapy. Ella stopped sleeping with the light off, mostly. Me? I went silent. Until the letter arrived. 3 months later. Unmarked envelope. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. Me. Standing outside our new house, holding the morning paper, looking at the camera. I don't remember it being taken. On the back, a message. The lens never blinks. Still watching. Still waiting. The final picture is coming. I showed it to Lisa. She told me it was probably fake, a hoax, a cruel prank. But deep down, I think we both knew. Hollow didn't die in that tunnel. He just closed the chapter. The story, it's still being written. I began to see cameras everywhere. Not real ones, just the idea of them. A glint in a tree branch. A blink from a street lamp. The red dot on the back of a stranger's phone. I stopped sleeping again. Every creak in the house became a step. Every shadow became a threat. Then came the drive. It was in my mailbox. No note, just a small plastic case. I brought it inside, stared at it for hours. Lisa begged me not to plug it in. But I had to know. Inside were hundreds of images, most I'd never seen before. Families, couples, hikers, all taken from the woods. Some at night. Some smiling, some crying. A few, not moving at all. But folder 7 was different. Labeled simply, Williams. Inside were hundreds of photos of us, from years ago, vacations, grocery trips, Ella's dance recital, Max's birthday party, all taken from a distance, from windows, from cars, from places he should never have been. Lisa's face went pale. He's been watching us before the trip. I kept scrolling. Then I found it. A new file, time-stamped the day before. A picture of me, in the living room, reading the journal, shot from outside the window. On the corner was a fresh note. One more. The next morning, I went outside with a hammer and ripped out every camera on our property. I tore apart the walls. I checked the attic. I dismantled every smoke detector. Nothing. But I felt him. He didn't need to be there physically. He was in our heads now, in the silence between conversations, in the hesitation when we turned out the lights. The story wasn't just his anymore. It had infected us. Lisa left with the kids the next week, said she needed space. I understood. I couldn't blame her for running from the story. I just couldn't stop reading it. Because tucked inside the case with the drive was one last thing. A map. New coordinates. Somewhere deeper in the forest. And a message scribbled in the corner. If you really want to end the story, come finish it. I told no one where I was going. Not Lisa, not the kids, not even the police. Some part of me knew this had to end on my terms. Our terms, and theirs couldn't protect us anymore. I followed the coordinates deep into Glacier Creek, past places even the rangers had stopped mapping. The forest changed as I moved. The trees grew denser, the light dimmer, the silence thicker. The trail led me to a hill of stone and moss, and at the base, a door. It wasn't hidden, it was waiting. I opened it, and stepped into a hollowed-out cave. Inside, candles flickered against walls lined with more photos. This time, they were all me, every moment from my life. A library of memories I didn't know someone else owned. And there, in the center, sat the chair. The same one Ella had been tied to. Next to it, a camera, mounted, powered, recording. He stepped into the light. Still masked. He didn't speak, just gestured to the chair. I sat. He turned on a small speaker. Lisa's voice echoed out, a phone call from weeks ago. Then Max, then Ella, recordings of laughter, of bedtime stories, of memories. Why? I whispered. He stepped forward and lifted the mask. He looked ordinary, a man in his 50s, tired eyes, weathered skin. I used to be a storyteller, he said, but no one listened anymore, so I made stories people had to hear. I stared at him. You took everything from us. He shrugged. You gave it to me. Every smile, every scream, every frame. Now, you finish it. He handed me a camera, pointed it at him. Tell the ending. I turned it on. He stood there, silent, waiting. I lifted the lens, framed the shot, and said, the story ends when the camera stops. Then I swung it, shattered the lens against the wall. Sparks flew. The camera broke in half. He lunged, but I was ready. I tackled him. We crashed into the wall. The candles fell. Fire caught on old paper. The whole place ignited. I fought him, until the smoke blinded me. Then I ran, up the stone tunnel, out into the night. I never looked back. By morning, the hill was nothing but black rock. And the story. It was finally over. Or so I thought. Because 3 days later, I received a package. A single Polaroid. Of me. Holding the broken camera. On the back, you're a storyteller now. Keep going. If you've ever looked over your shoulder while camping, or found yourself wondering if someone out there was watching, then you're not alone. This story was for you. If it kept you on the edge of your seat, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep bringing you chilling, immersive stories like this one, where reality and fear collide. And remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't in the woods, they're behind the lens. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and keep listening.